We're taping mid-Sunday afternoon. The man, the myth, the legend, Joe House is here. We're texting so much about NFL futures and leans and feels. It's still July. We are 6 weeks away from week one of the NFL season, House. Some of these odds are going to move around. We've been talking about it nonstop. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some Happy Gilmore. We're going to bring JackO's in to talk about the Yankees and true crime. But let's start with NFL really quick. First of all, how many bets have you fired off? Because you live in a state where gambling is actually legal.
Yeah, I was going through the inventory. I'm always a little nervous because now with the markets open in March, it's like, so there were some numbers I liked early. I got on Green Bay to win the Super Bowl at 22-1. That's held steady.
I would have booked that for you. You just sent that to me.
I mean, no,
They're not winning the Super Bowl.
I just like some of the long shot. This is like, some of the long shot kind of stuff. And then as we get more information, then I start laying in. So I have been over-indexing my skepticism of Cincinnati this season. Just way too many bets. Like every 4 days, I wake up in the morning and I look at the total and I'm like, Cincinnati, I don't like what they're doing. They haven't improved the defense and they still don't have an answer on the offensive line. And if Joe Burrow gets hurt, we've seen this, they are horrendous. So I keep betting against Cincinnati. I have them missing the playoffs. I have them on the under. A lot of skepticism about Minnesota. So
wait, hold on.
There's
On Cincinnati, I talked to you about this on the phone the other day. And I was saying how they become the fantasy football team that spent all their $200 on the three guys and then did $1 guys everywhere else. And you were like, you mean like I did in 2 years ago in fantasy football? And guess what? You didn't win.
No, I did that more in basketball than anything else. But yeah, either way, it's not a winning strategy.
It's not a winning strategy. So Raheem was on this a year ago, who's on the Ringer Gambling Show with you and has popped on this pod from time to time, about the concept of if they're out on a team, go really out. Go on some of those alt unders. And so the Cincinnati's minus 9.5 is the over
win
for
total.
them?
Yeah, it's 9.5.
Right. So you're saying I think Cincinnati's going to be awful or not as good as people think, or they're one Burrow injury away. You're going under 7.5. You get plus 280 on FanDuel. If you went under 5.5, which I guess would be some really
I'm not doing
bad
that.
Injuries, that's 8-1.
7,
I'm just saying
willing.
we've seen this. We saw it last year with the Niners, where if you had just said, you know what, I don't like the look of the Niners. I don't like the smell of them. I'm just going to go hard under, and that's the way to do it. So, all right. So Cincinnati's one, and I agree with you because I think they're top heavy. And I think the odds are reflecting the ideal situation with all of their playmakers. I don't like teams that can't block and can't cover. So that's a problem.
The thing that keeps coming back to me, and I'll have more time to get into the roster and so forth. This is just the July
we
take.
have 6 weeks.
That was a career season out of Joe Burrow last year. They got the career season out of him. He was awesome. He was incredible all season long with those weapons. And I mean, he's capable of replicating it, but a lot of stuff went right for them on offense, and they still missed the playoffs. They still came up short because that offensive line subjects him to just too much abuse. And there are games where that offense underperforms. They tend to happen early in the season, especially. But that defense was just an abomination. And I just haven't seen anything. Again, we'll get into the rosters, but I just wanted to make sure that my skepticism was baked into my portfolio early on.
Well, as you know, I love doing the player rankings every year, and I felt like it really helped me last year. And I spent even more time on them this year, trying to perfect my formula like a scientist. Cincinnati did not do great in the setup. You take out Burrow and Chase. I gave them a -1 for their offensive line. I only had 5 offensive lines where I was like, not only do you get a 0, I'm giving you a -1. Higgins, who hasn't been as healthy the last 2 years, but when he is healthy, he's great. And then Hendrickson, assuming he's coming back. And I think Chase Brown was good for them. And that's about it. That's their team. and they went 9-8 last year, had some bad end of the game luck, but they're also pretty top heavy. Minnesota, you and I share the same concerns because this is my favorite week to really start looking at this. Like on the positive side, Josh Simmons, who the Chiefs got at the end of the first round, left tackle, hurt his knee. Everyone was like, oh shit, if they can get him healthy in time for the season, this is like getting a top 10 pick.
Right.
It's like, all right, I've heard that one before. I'm not going to trust that if that's cool. Well, guess what? He looks great in training camp. Mm-hmm. And now they went from like this offensive line that was the biggest reason they lost in the Super Bowl. They had Joe Thuney playing outside as a guard at left tackle. And now they have Simmons. They spent some free agent money. They actually have too many guys. They might have like a decent guy, not even starting. But this Simmons, if he can be left tackle, kind of changes how I feel about the Chiefs. I don't know about you.
Well, and some of the smart folks that are doing some of the assessing of fortunes like this iteration of the Chiefs better than last year, the team that went 15-2, mainly because it seems like they are able to be physical, and it will be by virtue of what you're describing with Simmons, physical on the offensive side. They're not Kelsey will become a possession receiver.
Right.
They have two vertical threats, whenever the suspension is done, with Rice.
The receivers will be better. Hollywood Brown's back.
Right.
Like they actually weirdly should be better, except they're not going to go 11-0 in the one-score games again. But it's leading to something I want to talk about in a second. But let's do the Minnesota thing because this is the opposite of the Josh Simmons piece. The couple days of McCarthy we've had and some of the quotes from the players already where it just feels like work in progress is maybe being generous.
Yeah.
It made me nervous, House.
Well, with good reason. I mean, I have a lot of admiration for the Minnesota organization and for them doing what they did last season, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They were at times dominant, and they were able to play physical football, and it led all the way up to that unbelievable Week 17 game against Detroit. But Sam Darnold was incredible for them. And he and O'Connell were in such harmony. There was a synergy there. We can, use all of the stupid business words, but it just made so much sense. And you could see the team believing in Darnold. And
we had that famous locker room video.
Amazing.
They gave him the ball and they're just going fucking crazy and they're lifting him up.
So I don't criticize them for not paying Darnold, but they lost something meaningful, in my humble opinion. And we were supposed to believe that the 1 hour sessions, some of the stories coming out with Minnesota.
Oh, tell that story. What was that? What was in that story?
A story about, O'Connell made a point of ensuring no matter what in his schedule, he had an hour to sit down with McCarthy every single week of the NFL season so they could
last year,
yes. While McCarthy was injured, so they could talk about, things that were going on, what McCarthy was seeing and just, that undivided attention between the quarterback and the head coach, the offensive mastermind. That's great. I'm glad they have a great relationship. Need to see that dude get on the football field and throw the rock more than 10 yards.
It's tough because there's two things going against him. The rookie quarterback piece. Actually, three. The rookie quarterback piece, the I'm coming off a major injury piece, and then the I haven't played football in 2 years piece. And he's young. So you have all these things working against you. And I get it. They had to play it the way they had to play it because he's on a rookie contract. They made a big investment in him last year. It wouldn't have made sense to pay Darnold. I get it. But that doesn't mean I have to like Minnesota this year.
The other thing that sucks is that other than the quarterback position, the most important position on the field, they're goddamn good on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of veterans on that football team with an expectation of high performance based on how they did last year. And if he comes in and sucks, that's not an easy situation to navigate. So I just have a lot of skepticism.
I know I won't be betting on the over. The over right now, I guess it's 8.5 is minus 150. If you wanted to go over 10.5 for them, plus 180. But we're also looking at, the biggest drop-offs in in NFL history of teams just dropping 6 wins, 7 wins. It's not a thing that happens very much. So what was that record last year? 14 and 3?
Yes, 14.
Yeah. So you think like, all right, what are the biggest drop-offs ever? We've had some ones go up. I don't even have the list of the drop-offs, but usually it's like 6, 7 wins is the max for going from point A to point B.
Yep.
So for them to go from 14 wins to 8 wins, that's like almost historic for the decade.
We had it like the San Francisco. There's always a team. San Francisco last year backed up that much.
Yeah.
I mean, there are.
Think about all the shit that happened to them last year to make that happen.
Sure.
It was like the all-time year from hell season, starting with their fucking first-round pick getting shot in downtown. That was it. When I saw that, I was like, hey. We started going under on all the San Francisco stuff. So I am a little skeptical of this team. Anyone else? Because I have a team that jumped out to me that I mentioned Nate Tice last week.
Oh,
it ties into a bigger thing I want to talk about.
I'm all ears. You tell me.
I just really like this Broncos team.
Oh, okay. Sure.
And I've looked at it from every way. I actually asked FanDuel, and they said a lot of the action on the Broncos has been like basically all positive, which makes me a little nervous for division, for the overs. And but when I did my rankings, they just have a lot of good players all over the place. They have a top 4 offensive line. They got better in some subtle ways. They definitely got better on defense. They have a rookie running back that if they hit with him, with Harvey, then that's going to be significant because their running backs were bad last year. They have Knicks in year 2. The schedule is a little favorable in general for the AFC West. And I had them in my rankings. I had them like right hovering around where KC is for a number, just for like player points.
Personnel.
Yeah, I had them above the Chargers. I had them a little bit above the Rams. Like I had them when I laid everything out, they were higher than I thought. And when that happened last year, those teams were usually good.
I think what's got to be driving that is your defensive numbers, right? Because that defense was already excellent, and then they added 2 very good players. Now we'll see what they have left in
I didn't
Greenlaw.
Even have Hufanga. I didn't have Hufanga as a chipper. I had 6 chips on their defense.
Yeah.
Benito, Franklin Myers, Allen, Greenlaw, Surtain, and Jones.
Right.
That's 6 of their 11 guys made the list. And they're all like legitimately, you have to put them in the top 15, top 17 range. So, and then Sean Payton, year 2. They got a little taste last year, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with the AFC, when you take out Baltimore and you take out Buffalo and you take out KC, it's really it for, oh no, I don't want to see that team.
I agree. You're right.
So could they crack top 3? For the over-unders for them, that it's 9.5 is over. It's plus 110. The division odds, I think they're plus 330. And I think those odds are going to move. I think that's going to be the team that I think things are going to shift. Are you in or out on them? I'm
in, and I like their defense quite a bit. I love the idea of building the way that they built and what they surrounded Bo Nix with, and Peyton getting his guy in Nix. The aspect of that bet for them, what would you say, plus 330 to win the division?
Yeah.
That's just a Patrick Mahomes gets hurt the bet. Do we do that?
Well, no, if Simmons wasn't going to be ready for the season on their line and I was worried about the Chiefs line again, I might have thought about it. But the only thing with the Chiefs, man, you look at their schedule and like what they did to them from a TV game standpoint and a night game standpoint, it's fucking bonkers. Hold on, I have it here. They have how many night games? I have 8 games that are either at night, on Christmas, or in Europe.
Hey.
So they only play. There's 17 games total. They only play 9 normal Sunday games, and then 8 just completely wacky. They start the season in Brazil. Week 3, they're Sunday night. Week 5, Monday night. Week 6, Sunday night. Week 8, Monday night. Thanksgiving they play Sunday night, Christmas, and then the Raiders game, for all we know, could be a night game. Like that schedule is made me nervous.
Well, the same thing is true, and I'm agreeing that there is, we're going to see regression from the one score stuff, and even though we both think personnel-wise they're right where they were last year,
Yeah.
but 12 wins is still plenty good. You describing all of those night games, all those island games. Sadly, Washington has the exact same. Very, very, very similar.
Oh, I'm aware. Let's talk
very
about
similar,
it.
Very similar.
I was a little down on your Washington team. You want to go half glass full or glass half empty?
I'm only glass half full, so you should do the glass half empty.
Well, do the glass half full, and I'll do the empty.
That offense is better than last year, and yes, there will be regression in terms of their effectiveness on fourth down, especially. They're not going to be 87% effective on converting fourth downs this upcoming season, but they still have that multiplicity, and they will keep defenses on their heels. They're not going to change their philosophy or approach. And so overall, even though they won't be 20 of 23 on fourth down, they're going to play 4-down offensive football. And with the addition of Deebo Samuel and the additions on the offensive line, now look,
Deebo Samuel.
Well, no, I mean, he's just going to be put into the perfect role for him. That's all. They're not going to. It's not like an offense built around him. He needs. Is
he in shape yet?
He needs the calories. He's going to be, out there trying to earn another contract. Let that man eat. He's going to get his touches. I'm not worried, and take some of the pressure off of Austin Eckler. Like,
is it touches of a bagel?
It's a team of yards after contact, and if some of that contact. Look, he needs to build up the fortitude to take that first hit. I don't have no issue whatsoever. Let that man eat. In fact, I'll take him around Washington, D.C. and make sure that he's well fed.
Deebo, stay away from Joe House.
No, we're good. Me and D are on the same page. But I'm not worried about the offense. It's hilarious with Tunsil. Led the league last year in accepted penalties from that position, but his blocking rates, his grades are still very, very good. The defense remains a work in progress, and they lost, some important guys there. So we'll see.
That schedule you mentioned, they had the same issue that KC has: 8 games that are either net games or Euro games.
Yep.
And they're playing on Christmas too. So here's the other issue with them. I was ranking the divisions, which I can't wait for you to talk about, for just who I think is going to be best division in each conference. And I think you can make a legitimate case that they're playing the 2 best divisions in each conference. They're playing the AFC West, they're playing the NFC North. Those are 8 games where the worst teams you're going to play are either Minnesota or Chicago in the NFC North, and probably Vegas in the AFC West, who I kind of like as at least being a little frisky with the new coach. So you have that. They're playing a second place schedule, which is Miami, the Chargers, and Seattle. And 2 of those teams could be good. And Miami seems like they lucked out with that one, but it's a murderer's row. And then, it's got to be mentioned the Jaden Daniels, just the reason people were worried about him when he came into the league was he's skinny.
True.
What kind of hits is he going to take? So those would be my concerns, House. From a talent standpoint, they did okay in my rankings. They were, they were kind of upper middle class.
That's fine. I'll take it. Believe me.
They were right. I had them in the Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Washington range, basically, for talent.
I see. For talent. Okay.
But a lot of it depends on how you rank Daniels and where you think he's going to be.
Very high.
Some of the bets that we were looking at, and this we have a thread, me, you, Sal, and Hench that we've had for a long time that we named after JT Thor, a guy who carried us on the last day of a season a couple years ago. What was that? The Charlotte over? What did we have?
It was an incredible number.
We had whoever Charlotte was playing, we had their under.
It was a Cleveland under.
Yeah, we needed Charlotte to be Cleveland.
They put JT Thor was on Charlotte. And Cleveland deliberately decided to tank the last game of the season. I don't remember the circumstances why.
And Charlotte was trying to tank too, but JT Thor was like, I'm not tanking. I'm trying to impress people. And looked like Karl Malone in the mid-90s. Anyway, so we always text bets, and we finally got excited about one. And It was plus 158 on FanDuel when we were texting about it. Now it has dropped to plus 145. The bet is New Orleans and Cleveland both to finish fourth in their divisions. I feel even better about it than I did a week ago. I love this bet. There's some people we could throw it in, but it's my favorite one, right? Is this your favorite too?
Yeah, so far it's very simple. The other bet that I've made on the other side of it is Baltimore and Buffalo to win their respective divisions. That's plus 120 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So I like to have a positive bet to go along with our negative bet.
Right.
You know,
for karma. You don't want to just all go negative.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't see any scenario where Cleveland makes the third place spot unless there's some sort of horrible injury to somebody. And even then, I don't know if they would make it.
Have you seen the odds? I couldn't find them. I don't know if they're out yet. My favorite bet for Cleveland will be last team to get a win this NFL season.
Oh.
Their schedule is excruciatingly tough at the outset, and there are some unbelievable betting opportunities.
Let's go through it for the audience, because I looked at this too, and it was one of the reasons I sent you guys that last place text. Plus, not to mention, we have no idea who their quarterback was. Kenny Pickett's already hurt. Yeah, so they're home Cincy, at Baltimore, home Green Bay, at Dallas, playing Minnesota and London, at Pittsburgh, home Dolphins, at Pats, at Jets, Ravens, at Raiders, Niners are the first 12, basically. So I guess the best chance would be Dolphins week 7.
That's their first best chance. I agree.
Unless they upset somebody. But they'll be Bengals game. I haven't looked at the lines yet, but they'll be at least like plus 5 higher. They'll be plus 5 or higher in every game until that Miami game. So I don't see any case for Cleveland to not be in fourth place. And I don't even think they care. I think they're going to use this year to figure out. They paid Myles Garrett. Now he can't say anything. He took the money. They don't really have a lot of talent anywhere. And that's just the way it goes. But the New Orleans, even though that division's obviously worse, that was I only had 2 teams that I gave -2s for their quarterbacks, and it was New Orleans and Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's a tiny bit scary with New Orleans is that their offensive line is not horrendous.
Right.
There are worse
one good thing with
offensive lines, and they do still have guys that you see some spectacular plays out of Chris Olave, some spectacular. So Alvin Kamara was like kind of a dog for as long as he could be healthy last season, which he's in harm's way quite a bit, especially with Derek Carr.
Well, Olave has that concussion thing that I think he's had 4 or 5.
I hate it.
It's hard to pencil him in for an entire season anymore. New Orleans has, I would argue, the least amount of talent in either conference, combined with this David Carr piece, Derek Carr. I just called him as his brother. That would be the first of many mistakes in the podcast for me. Derek Carr, whichever Carr, but having to, whatever that salary cap, not being able to plan for a QB anyway. So we like that. Plus, it's plus 145, New Orleans, Cleveland. And then you can get a little frisky if you want. You can throw Tennessee in there for them to be in fourth place. That was plus 493. Now it's plus 520. Or you can go Cleveland, New Orleans, Miami if you want to really go nuts. That's plus 724, House. If you think Miami can be the worst team in the AFC East, and I think they can.
I want to tell you, I have lost some of my enthusiasm for Tennessee as the worst team in the AFC South, because when you go in and start looking at, I did this out loud on many of our shows. They had all the hallmarks of a team that was point shaving, except for they weren't. I mean, I wasn't an allegation. They just were the point shaving Titans, because their level of special teams play was historically bad. And Will Levis was, I think our good pal Warren Sharp called him a double agent. I mean, nobody, he led the NFL in opposing touchdowns, like letting other teams score. And he was, a by however many measures you want to use, the worst quarterback in the entire NFL. And so
he was certainly the worst quarterback to gamble on last year.
Well, they went 2-15 against the spread. The first time
he would look confident, and then he would become Will Levis and just pull. Yeah. So it was always better to be against Will Levis.
Yeah. 2-15 against the spread. Another historical outcome. So here's the thing. I mean, it's not like a strong case for Tennessee. It's just they got rid of the worst quarterback in the league and replaced him with a rookie. And the rookie is a great unknown. Who knows? And they got a legit special teams coach on the team. So, they
congratulations. But rookie QB, offensive line might not be horrific. They didn't get a -1. They weren't a bottom 5 offensive line. Division's not good. Another positive.
That's why I didn't let me plow into adding Tennessee to the parlay. The parlay that we absolutely adore.
We did though.
We did, but I mean it wasn't the same denomination.
No, we went less units.
That's right.
There's a Cleveland, New Orleans, Miami, Tennessee, all to finish 4th place is plus 1820. 18-1 odds. I think that's a pretty good long shot. You could probably go against
Miami is the Jets are in that conference. The
Jets have some talent.
We said this last year.
I know, but they have a better coaching situation. My fear with the Jets is, or a positive fear is, they might actually have an identity. I don't know if I like the identity. I don't know if it's an identity that will win 10 games, but with Fields and they have a better than average offensive line, right?
They do.
And maybe they're just going to be a pound the ball, multiple running backs, hard to play, a lot of 16-13 type games. And I could kind of see what they might be.
All right.
Right. They have enough chippers on defense. Maybe. I don't see it with Miami at all. I don't understand what that team is. And that the first coach fired stuff hasn't come out yet, but I think McDaniel has to be lingering for that one, right?
Sure. Yeah. He's going to be in the top 3 for sure.
Most shocking one on that list could be Mike Tomlin.
I just don't see it.
I know.
I just don't see it.
Who else would you have on the first coach fired list?
I don't know. All of the eligible candidates got fired. All of the best bets.
we have so many new coaches.
Right.
I guess Zach Taylor would have to be mentioned if
Cincinnati comes out slow again. He'll be there.
Dayball might be if the Giants
he'll be number 1.
Are horrific.
Don't you think he'll be number? Or did he get another year's worth of dispensation?
I would have McDaniel first.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's just me. So speaking of divisions, I was trying to figure out. We did this. Sal and I did this when we did the over/under pod. So I'll have a final answer on this. But if you go most wins by division, and you go least wins by division, it's a good way to think of it. Because last year, one of the things that helped me with my futures was I went all in on divisions or I was all out on divisions. Mm-hmm. We had the most wins by a division last year was the NFC North, had 45 wins. The year before, the AFC North had 43. And the year before that, the NFC East had 43. Those are our top 3, 43, 43, 45. So we know the best division in the 17-game schedule is going to be in the 43 to 45 range, which is a lot of wins. You need one really good team, another really good team, and then the other ones are probably around 9 and 10 wins. Who is that this year, House? Who would be your best bet? Because I'm going to have FanDuel do some division things for us, like win totals for divisions against each other. I have a pick. Who's your most reliable division this year?
For me, it's the AFC West. I think that they're really kind of built for it. They have the best coaches in the entire NFL, in my humble opinion, now with Pete Carroll. I mean, you could say whatever you want, make fun of Pete for the last couple of years in Seattle, but the culture will change and they have talent and they're headed in the right direction. What we saw out of Peyton and Harbaugh, and the way that they immediately arrived and immediately kicked those teams into gear. And then the Chiefs are just the Chiefs. And so, you can get, I see like a 38 to 42 win sort of possibility for those 4 teams. And I can't get there with any of the other divisions.
So the over-unders right now, KC's 11.5, Denver's 9.5, Chargers 9.5, Vegas 7.5. So if you add those up, we're at 38.
Yeah.
And if we're going over if you think that division's actually going to overachieve, that puts us in that range. Here's the fun wrinkle. That division plays the AFC South and the NFC East.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the AFC South, which I do not think is going to be good, and the NFC East, which other than Philly, if your team goes backwards, if Dallas stays in the middle and then the Giants are bad, it's just probably the best. The best outcome would be South and South. But the next best outcome, I think, is this. So I'm with you, House.
You're agreeing with me. Okay.
I am. That was the one I had. That was the one I had as well, the AFC West. I think there's an interesting Vegas case where it's basically just QB coach, which we've seen. You saw it last year on your team.
Yeah.
Change QB, bring in a competent one. Change the coach, bring in a competent one. That's usually worth 5 wins. It just is. And that team was, I think their record was even a little better than we thought it was going to be last year. But I don't know. Could they go 9-8?
Sure. The Christian Wilkins
I didn't love
thing,
the Christian Wilkins thing.
Funky.
Yeah. Didn't love that.
Yeah.
That was, I thought, a red flag. But then you flip it the other way. Who's going to be the worst? All right. Well, what are the numbers for that? Last year, worst division, AFC South, 25. We thought it was going to be the NFC South.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. We had special FanDuel bets. We went under, I think, 29.5. It actually did hit, but it was a little closer and a little hairier than we thought because Tampa turned out to be pretty good. But anyway, last year, AFC South 25. Year before, NFC South 27. Year before that, AFC South 23. So let's call it somewhere between 23 and 27 will be our range. And the 2 candidates are the 2 South divisions. So we have the AFC South. They're playing the AFC West and the NFC West. So that's at least 8 of the games plus each other. NFC South is playing the AFC East and the NFC West. So slight advantage to the AFC South. AFC South has Houston 9.5, Indy 7.5, Jacksonville 7.5, Tennessee 5.5. NFC South has Tampa Bay at 9.5 wins, Atlanta 7.5, Carolina 6.5, New Orleans 5.5. So they're 1 win less. NFC South is at 12, 29. AFC South is at 30 for just if you take the FanDuel odds together.
Yeah.
And yet, House, I think I like the AFC South to be the worst division. What do you have?
I agree with you.
I thought you were going to have NFC South. I was ready for it.
I'm not. And
okay.
The reason I don't is because I think that Tampa will be good again, but I think that there is, speaking of double agents, speaking of saboteurs, going back and looking at what Kirk Cousins did to that Atlanta Falcons team, it's astonishing. They have a cause of action against that man. They were 6-3, and that offense was very good until it got to the red zone. He led the Falcons led the league in turnovers in the second half of close games, like games where they were sort of within 1 score. And right. Kirk Cousins had 7 picks before he got benched in the second half of close games and finished his, some might say, career with 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions before they finally benched him for Michael Penix. I mean, that was a legit playoff team talent-wise. Now, look, Atlanta had plenty of challenges. They had no pass rush. They tried to address that this offseason. But I think the ceiling for Atlanta is high. And I, got to look at some
higher. I would say higher.
Higher. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So
I had that as well because I actually liked Tampa this year. Like when I did my, at least this first pass of the rankings, I was surprised by how high Tampa was, including the fact that they have one of the best 4 lines in the league. They brought back continuity in offense, except for the coaches. And it looks like they're in a pretty easy division. I don't feel as good about Houston as I do about Tampa. So even if you're looking at those 2 teams versus each other, I just have more questions and concerns with Houston than I do with Tampa. I think Tampa's going to be good.
They are good. They had to address their secondary. They were a bottom 3 defense in terms of yards per game and overall total passing yards. They just give up a ton. They gave up a lot of career games to opposing quarterbacks. So they have to, have some improvement there. And it is, once again, a new offensive coordinator for Baker, but it doesn't seem to matter. He just gets cooking. And it's a guy that was already there. So it seems like it'll be fine. The talent is good. The offensive line is good. So I like Tampa.
I think it's a little easier when you have everybody back and you have the same system and all that stuff.
Only thing with Tampa is Tristan Wirfs is hurt and out for a little bit. Looks like he might not be there for the beginning of the season. He's a pretty important offensive lineman, so that might be like you mark him down a game kind of thing.
I didn't love that piece.
Yeah,
but Houston just lost Joe Mixon for God knows how long. So I'm just a little more worried about them. So we're going to tell FanDuel. We're going to try to do an AFC South versus NFC South, some sort of head-to-head. They're going to put a couple futures up on FanDuel that House and I are going to approve, and we'll try to figure out. Before we go, New Orleans, Tennessee, Cleveland, Miami, all to miss the playoffs, plus 109.
Good. Let's do that. Plus money. We like plus money.
Saints, Titans, Browns, Dolphins. I just don't see any of those teams making the playoffs. Miami would be the threatening one.
That's who messes it up for us.
Yeah. Like if the Pats are worse than people think, if the Jets are worse than people think, and they somehow go 9-8 and get a 7 seed. On the flip side, Baltimore, Kansas City, Philadelphia, yes, they all make the playoffs. 14 teams in the playoffs. Plus 101.
That's another one.
Who messes that
Plus
up?
money.
Who messes it up?
We like those. Philadelphia. I mean, I can't. I have to admit, I don't know how to make the case.
I don't know who messes that up. Even odds. Let's do that as well.
I mean, I would say Philadelphia on the theory that, first of all, I hate Philadelphia because they beat the hell out of Washington.
I'm not listening.
But that's the reason. Here's the thing. If you want to make a case to fade them a tiny bit, it is that they have, significant turnover personnel wise on defense. And it takes a minute to get that Fangio defense. That's the best I can do. That's the best I can do.
We're going to take a break and we're going to bring in our buddy Jacko.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of clocking out early. Your business is on your mind 24/7. So when you're hiring, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That hiring partner is LinkedIn Jobs. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. Nice. At the end of the day, the most important thing to your small business is the quality of candidates. And with LinkedIn, you can feel confident you're getting the best. You can even add a hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture and get 2 times more qualified candidates. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Simmons. Terms and conditions apply. And now it's time for Rookie Radar, a new segment from Yahoo Fantasy, the best place to play fantasy football this season. It's where we were going to be doing our big Ringer Fantasy Football Draft at the end of August. Starting August 4th, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play and draft and win. And whether you're building a dynasty or hunting for that late round gem, it pays to keep an eye on the next generation of stars. Obviously, Genti on Vegas is going to be a crazy good running back, and we'll see how high he goes in the rankings. I still like Hampton on the Chargers to get a lot of touchdowns. I think he's going to be good right away. My sleeper would be RJ Harvey on Denver because Denver has top 4 offensive line. And I think he's immediately going to put up points. And then the other one I really like is Tyler Warren in Indianapolis because I think as a tight end, I think he's just going to come in and be really good right away. So we'll see. We'll see if there can be more names on that list. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League today at yahoofantasy.com/Simmons. All right, House is still here. A very special treat for us. My buddy Jacko. It's been a while. We were all together how many years ago? That would now be 37 years ago.
Incredible.
I was talking to somebody, a buddy of mine was sending his son off to college, and we were talking. He had like some 2-day orientation that they went to at the University of Oregon where they got to meet everyone. They're going to be in the hall. You flew in, you flew back. And I ended up telling him JackO's story about how he was introduced to his roommate, our friend Nick Aida. And I feel like you could just tell that right now. What happened? So we would get at Holy Cross, they would send us the name of who you're rooming with and a phone number, and that was it.
Right. And an address, I think. So like I learned that Nick Aida who is not actually Japanese, although it sounds like it should be a Japanese name. So I'm like, Holy Cross is like 90% Irish, and I'm going to have the one Japanese roommate at Holy Cross, which is fine. But I'm just like, this will be unique. So I call Nick Aida, and this to tell you like what a simpler time it was. Like there was no social media of any kinds. There was no like Twitter, Facebook, you couldn't, or Snapchat, whatever the kids use these days. So you couldn't like see anybody ahead of time. So you would just cold call this person, and you were encouraged to talk ahead of time. And meanwhile, my parents, and to tell you what a different time this was, my parents had bought me like a fridge and a landline phone, which was a big deal at the time. So I call Nick Aida, and I'm listing off all these things that I have for our room. And I'm like, I have a fridge, and, my parents have a phone for our room, and we're good with this and we're good with that. And he was kind of grasping at straws to see like what he could bring. And he's like, I've got a bunch of hangers. And I'm like, hangers? I'm like, does he think like my shirts are just on the floor right now? Like, oh, thank God, I'll finally have a place. I'll finally have something to do with my shirts and coats, because I was wondering what I was going to do about that. So I felt bad for him. But so we told that story in college. And of course, Nick and I are fast friends now. And then like Holy Cross Alumni Magazine a couple of years ago had a thing about going off to school, and it had all the things you need. And one of them was like a big package of hangers. And I'm like, Aida was ahead of the time. Who knew?
He was 30 years ahead of the curve. Right. Yeah, and now you have a fantasy football team with them called the Wire Hangers.
Exactly. So it's lived on. It's lived on. Although you had a similar story, because I remember when you called your freshman year roommate, and he was like, I have to call you back. I'm entertaining some guests. And you had a vision like he was circulating like a tray with Cheetos on it or something, like to all of his friends. Such an awkward thing. It's so awkward. My daughter started college last year, and now they encourage you to like go on, social media and try to find a roommate ahead of time, which I don't particularly care for, because if you get rejected, like you start off behind the 8 ball, like there's already people you dislike or dislike you by the time you set foot on campus, I don't care for that. But I mean, it worked out for her. She's going back sophomore year with the same roommate, so it's all good.
Yeah,
but
who knew college roommates was like Tinder? Like swipe left. Did you know this house?
It would have made sense though, because I will say from my own experience, I got paired up with a very nice guy from like central Massachusetts. And I was describing to him my interests and stuff. And I would like really into the Washington, D.C. music scene, the punk scene here. And I was describing, all this, the how I spent my time that way. And he tried to connect. Like he was, we were on the phone. He's like, well, my high school had punk day, which is like, we all get dressed up. That's like, okay, that's a, different kind of thing than what I'm talking about. But,
House was like, every day is punk day for me.
That's Tuesday for me.
That's right. It's a day that ends in Y. We were roommates for 1 year.
There you go.
Then you had the great Jeff Mazur.
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot of things we're going to try to do with the three of us. We're going to start here, Jacko.
All right.
Yankees have not won a World Series. There are kids now turning 21 who are legally able to drink, who don't remember really what it was like when the Yankees won the World Series. They could say they did because they were like 4 or 5. You absolutely detest their GM. You absolutely detest their coach.
True.
And you fly off the handle anytime something goes wrong. So now Aaron Judge, who's been Superman, and now he's hurt. It seemed like there was some Tommy John stuff potentially, but they're saying he's fine, at least for a little while.
Averted disaster there, yes.
Yeah. Just just walk us through your emotions as we head into August.
Well, I mean, you could just play any podcast I've appeared on since 2018, and it's the same story. Like literally, like there's no updates. It's the darkest time in my Yankee fandom history. I am 55 years young, so I've been a fan cognizantly of the Yankees since about 1977 when I was 7 years old. And there's just no hope. Like, yes, you say I fly off the handle. That's true. I can't help but react to some things that occur. But I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, what's the point? Nothing's going to change. It's like yelling at like the weather. Like, what's it doing for me? It's not doing any good. The owner doesn't care. Like, we could reenact all this again. The owner doesn't care because he gets 40,000 people a night ordering chicken buckets and beers and sodas, and he makes a fortune. So he owns his own TV network. He doesn't care. the GM has a job for life. Like he's been there, I did a thing a while ago. This is like he's on the third pope, like the second British monarch, and like the sixth president. It's the biggest job security on earth. Literally, he's been there longer than the Pope and like the King of England. It's ridiculous. And he's never, ever going to get fired because he's Hal's buddy. They're like brothers. So it'd be like I would think like if you put me in charge of the Ringer content, right? And I'm like, you're like, John, I don't think we need the 50th Hartford Whalers or Pogues podcast. I think like 49 was probably enough. You'd be like, I love you, but we got to make some changes here. Like it's not working out. Hal Steinbrenner's like, nope, it's all good. It's great. I love it. And you have Aaron Boone, who is not fit to lead a pet store, let alone a Major League Baseball team, and the New York Yankees, a multi-billion-dollar franchise. The whole thing's a disgrace, but like it doesn't change. And yeah, like they have, and last year I was going to console myself and say, well, they haven't even been to a World Series since 2009, which they won, and they went to one, and I'm like, all right, I'll give them a pass. But then they lose the World Series in the most embarrassing, mortifying fashion in the history, one of the worst performances in the history of baseball. Like that fifth inning in Game 5, I will still have nightmares about that, like on my deathbed. It's so bad and so horrendous. So like you can't even give them a break on that because they got through a very weak American League to win a pennant. And okay, a pennant's still a pennant, but you can't like mortifyingly embarrass yourself in your first World Series in 16 years. You just can't. And then they're like, well, we're going to come back stronger. We're going to be better defensively. And they got worse. Like, you can't make it up. They got worse. And they all have this fake swagger that they get from, special advisor to the owner, Nick Swisher, who is the king of fake swagger. And he like runs the organization with Cashman. And they're like, well, the league's caught up to us and we're still the best team in the league. Yeah. Based on what? When Aaron Boone says these things at press conferences, I just want one media member to say, like, you have all this confidence. What is that based on? Like, what is it based on that this team is going to rebound and it's all right in front of them and you're going to turn the corner? Based on what? It's delusional. Like, it is delusional. It's like me saying, I'm going to win the decathlon in the next Olympics. What is that based on? Oh, no, I'm going to do it. Don't worry about that. Based on what? There is no track record or history to say that you were going to do anything. And the media is just like, oh, okay, they're going to do it. It's all right in front of them, and writes it down. Oh, the whole thing is just disgraceful. Disgraceful.
Wow. House, you thought you had it bad with your baseball team.
I do have it bad with my baseball team. The Yankees were in the effing World Series last year. Yes, it was embarrassing, but they were in the World Series. It's very good. They won the pennant. That's very good.
House does a lot of people at Yankee, like younger, and I'm not killing House, I love House, but a lot of like younger Yankees Twitters, like, oh, they've been in the playoffs 20 years, out of the past 22, and they went to the World Series. Listen, that's great if you're the Kansas City Royals. That's fantastic. You could hang up the banner like the 2014 Colts with the AFC finalist banner. Go ahead and hang that. That's great. If you're the New York Yankees, you are the creme de la creme of North American sports franchises. Making the playoffs is not enough. And normally I would say, cut them some slack and say, winning a pennant is good. We'll take that. But not when you lose in the way that they did. You just can't lose like that. I went to bed that night after the game, and my wife had gone to bed before me, and she said I was sighing so heavily she thought someone died. I work with a woman whose husband is a big Yankee fan, and I went to work the next day and I said, how did your husband take last night's loss? And she goes, well, I went to bed early, and then when I woke up this morning there was a bottle of scotch that was empty on the table. And I'm like, yeah, that's about right. That's exactly right. So you can't tell me, well, we went to the World Series, it was great, when my wife thinks somebody died, and another woman I know, her husband drinks a bottle of scotch to console himself after that. Like, you can't be like, well, we still got that pennant to root for.
Well, and then Cole gets hurt. Now
Right.
Judge is hurt. And then you have, this is something you and our buddy John Jastrzemski have been on it forever. It's basically Yankee prospect porn, where they just tout these prospects that are coming up so that they don't spend money on other people because they have the next Lou Gehrig's coming up.
Right.
The next Derek Jeter's coming up. And they did this with Volpe, especially,
Big
where
time.
they were like, this guy is so special, you're not going to believe it. And now it's turned on him to the point that I actually feel bad for him as a Red Sox fan. Like, I feel bad for him and his family. And I hate the Yankees. Like, I hate them Almost the most, other than maybe the Lakers. But that's how badly it's gone. Why did they do this with their prospects?
Well, because Hal doesn't want to spend money and they have to justify it some way. So he didn't want to spend money on like Trey Turner and Corey Seager. And even before Volpe was a thing, he didn't want to spend money on Manny Machado. And they never went out and got Bryce Harper. And then they're like, there's like a joke about, you know, on Twitter or elsewhere where somebody's like, I want McDonald's. And, you know, I think it's like an old Eddie Murphy joke. Like, we have McDonald's at home. So the Yankees are like, we don't need like an all-star shortstop. We have one at home just waiting, Anthony Volpe. And they overhyped him. And he's Italian, so they could play that up because the Yankees have a history of great Italian players in New York. You know, largely Italian Yankee fans, DiMaggio and Lazzari, the Rizzuto, the whole 9 yards. And he grew up a Yankee fan. He grew up in New York. So they're like, oh, this kid, he's going to be great. He's awesome. And they put too much pressure on the kid, and he stinks. Like, it's his third year, and he stinks. And people got all excited because he had a halfway decent postseason last year. But that was like a very small sample size, and it turned out to be a fluke, and he stinks. And he can't hit, but he makes up for not hitting by not being able to field either. So it's like, what is he doing? And the Yankees always do this where, you know, Clint Frazier was going to be the next great thing, and Greg Bird was going to be the next great thing, and Gary Sanchez was going to be Johnny Bench. And they do it because Hal doesn't want to spend money, and he's enamored of the Tampa Bay Rays business model of doing it, paying, you know, 75 cents for a roster. And it doesn't work. And I guess it could work if you had a GM who knew what he was doing, but the GM's been there too long, and everybody in the system has been there too long, and they don't know what they're doing. And they've shown that clearly. But so Volpe, I almost feel bad for him myself because he can't help that he just stinks. And fans put too much in him because they're like, well, I guess if we're not going to get a competent major league shortstop, all-star, Anthony Volpe will be that on the cheap, and we'll love it. And he's our homegrown guy and prospects, and yay. And I read about him in Baseball Prospectus and all that. It's horrible. Everything's horrible.
Well, at least Torres didn't go to the Tigers and lead off the All-Star game.
Right. I mean, that's a great point. Like when they traded Chapman for Torres, and Torres was the number one prospect in baseball. And they made another trade where they got Clint Frazier, and he was supposedly like one of the top 10 prospects in baseball. And the Yankees destroyed both of them. Now, Glaber was okay as a Yankee, but he never lived up to the top prospect in baseball billing. They couldn't get him to run to first base on a consistent basis. And they coddled him, and they never got the best out of him because Aaron Boone is like your big brother, like managing the team, and he's not an authority figure. And he lets him get away with murder, and he covers for everybody. And you ended up with, like, you know, I had a thing the other day, and a guy corrected me because I said they developed Aaron Judge, who's a, you know, generational player who they weren't even that high on as a prospect, and they lucked out with him. They were higher on Greg Bird and Sanchez and Volpe at later on than they ever were with Judge, and they lucked out with him. But who else have they developed? And a guy said, well, Luis Gil won the Rookie of the Year last year. Okay, he's a pitcher, and I think it was probably a weak field, and he's been hurt all year, so I forgot about him. But before that, like, who's the prospect that this wonderful analytics department of Brian Cashman has developed? You can't go back and find anybody that they've developed in their own system except for Judge, and I'll give you Gil, who won Rookie of the Year. But like they washed out on Torres by and large. They washed out on Frazier, etc.
You got your guy Schlittler.
Yeah, they got him, and they have this kid Spencer Jones in the minors, and they're probably going to trade them for like a, you know, backup third baseman because they don't have or a relief pitcher that's going to be brutal. So they get this. I like Schlittler because or whatever you say his name, because he throws 100 miles an hour, and you know they need more of that. He threw like the first game he pitched, he had the 6 fastest pitches for the Yankees all year, which tells you something else. So I like him, but like, you know, pitchers, who knows if they're going to work out. He looks good in small sample, but who knows? Who knows?
I promise this is a good faith question. I promise.
Oh boy.
How different do you think the season would be if Juan Soto was still on the team? Because I will tell you that I think that they did make a legit effort to sign Soto. I mean, I think they did too, but I think Steve Cohen was never going to be outbid. And if the Yankees went to $1 billion, Steve Cohen was going to go to $1 billion and $1. And it's very clear when Soto was complaining about losing out on a $100,000 bonus for not making the World Series, for not making the All-Star team, that he was always going to go to the highest bidder, whatever team that was. So, yeah, I do think they made a good faith effort to get him. And I would say, like, on paper, getting Cody Bellinger, who's been good, and getting Max Fried as like the backup plan
were two good things. And I think Soto certainly had the capability of masking some of their offensive troubles, because they haven't been able to get a clutch hit in about 10 years. And it's all like basically home run or nothing for the most part. Although their offensive stats this year are good, but that's a little phony because it's from a couple big games. They don't have any level of consistency, and they don't believe in clutch. And I don't know what they teach in the minor leagues, but it's not defense or like any kind of competent hitting. I don't think they teach anything. I think Nick Swisher takes them out to dinner and tells you how to do a home run trot or something. But
wow, Johnny's more down on the Yankees than I am on the Red Sox. I actually had a big comeback season with the Red Sox, and I've watched 100%. A ton of the season, and I've enjoyed it.
You traded Devers, and then you got better. It was the Ewing theory. It was the biggest Ewing theory of all time.
It turns out when you trade your overweight superstar guy who won't help the team by playing first base and didn't seem like he was very happy and felt betrayed by everybody, maybe it was a good thing to have him move on.
Apparently. He proved it right, because he went to the Giants and Will Clark's like, hey, I'd love to meet with you and work on first base. And he was like, no, I'm good. No, thanks.
I think he played there eventually last week. The problem is the Red Sox sold it to the fans as like, no, and then we're going to use the Devers money. We'll spend it on, and we're still waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
But we have these young prospects that are actually, pretty special. Like this Roman Anthony thing is, this is like appointment viewing. This is a rare case of the prospect that they might have actually not been full of shit. He's pretty great. Even wears the Fred Lynn number 19, which brings joy to my heart. House, when did you know
Fred Lynn's number?
Harper?
Really? I didn't wear.
Yeah,
I was not aware
Fred
of that.
Lynn's number.
Oh
House,
my
when
goodness.
did you know with Bryce Harper when you were watching him?
What about Bryce
Harper? Like right away? When they had Bryce Harper, right away, right?
Yes, immediately. Amazing, immediately, yes. But thank God.
That's what this Roman Anthony thing's like. It's like he's just clearly has it.
We've had a wealth of those kinds of things come through Washington. Juan Soto, and now James Wood, who is an absolute goddamn stud. 6'7", runs the bases, so fleet of foot. But the organization is, speaking of abominations, in this holding pattern because the family that owns them can't figure out how to sell it, for max price. So speaking of teams that won't spend any money, I mean,
How fucking hard is it to sell a baseball team?
It's really, it's very peculiar to me.
Well, I have a question for both of you, because you each hate this team for different reasons. But does it annoy you that the Mets kind of have their mojo back? Jacko, do you care about the Mets at all as a Yankee fan, or are you just American League only?
I never really used to care. I never used to care about the Mets. It was like the Don Draper, I don't think about you at all thing. But then I kind of got my back up a couple of years ago. There was like a Mets Red Sox game on ESPN, and everybody was joyously chanting Yankees suck at the same time. And I got kind of mad about the Mets.
You're like, what?
I was like, what? I got my back. Mets? Who the fuck are you? The Mets? Shut up, So I got my back up a little bit. So yeah, I mean, there's always a thing about, who's going to be the dominant team in New York, to the extent anybody pays attention to that, like who's the big kid on the block. And when they got Soto, they talked a lot of trash, and it was like, all right, the Yankees are in a rough patch, rough decade, but let's not go nuts about who the big boy in town is, So the Mets are cute, like let them have their cute little fun. But
you're giving them the cute. Oh, I love it. It's dismissive. JackO is one of my favorite JackO's. If you had Steve Cohen as the Yankees owner, though, you'd be delighted.
Oh, I would be in love.
Yeah,
I would be in love.
House, you would love it too, House.
I would, of course I would. I mean, you're kidding me. I don't care about the Mets either. I care much more about the Phillies and honestly the Cardinals, because the Cardinals beat the Nationals a bunch of times in the playoffs. I like them less.
Well, I feel really good about not only the Red Sox, but baseball. I don't want to say I gave up on baseball, but I definitely took a pretty long hiatus, partly from Mookie Betts, partly for how long the games. We won the 4 titles. But I really did kind of deep down miss it. And getting back into it, especially when Tatum got hurt, and just kind of all of a sudden they kind of slid into a void in a lot of different ways. But I think the biggest thing that I've loved, and we've talked about it last year too, is just how much faster the games move. And how much more enjoyable it is day to day to be like, oh, it's the 6th inning. And you just have it in your head. You're like, oh, this will be another 45 to 50 minutes. I can actually stay and watch the end of this, versus wherever we were before, where you just like time stopped. You had no idea how long anything was going to be.
The pitch clock is the greatest.
Your wife would be like, "Hey, are we going to watch
Mm-hmm.
that show?" To be like, this game might be another 3 hours. I don't know. Their innovation with that, I think, is one of the most important things anyone did this century. Like baseball to me is like pretty entertaining again. And I can't believe they fixed it, Jacko.
Well, especially you and I, veterans of the Yankee Red Sox wars, where a game would start at 7:00 and go until 12:30 in the morning because, guys are stepping out of the box and they're adjusting their gloves and they're shaking dirt off their spikes and there's a million pitching changes and the whole 9 yards. So it's like, I got to go to work tomorrow. Can we please end this one way or another? It was like a marathon. It was ridiculous. So the pitch count is fantastic. It's such a smart innovation and to speed things up, I was always, I'm an old school conservative guy. So I'm like, what are we making these changes for? But I'm like, oh, that was actually good. Good stuff. Good job, Manfred.
I will tell you, my kid, this is he turns 15 this upcoming week, and we're going up to New York to kind of celebrate. And I said, here's all the stuff we can do. The Yankees, unfortunately, are not in town when we're going to be in town, but the Mets are in town. He's like, F yes, I'll go to a Mets game. I definitely want to go because he knows that he's not going to be held hostage for hours and hours and hours.
Right.
And he does get to see Juan Soto, who is his favorite player when he was in Washington. But yeah, we're going to go he's like, yeah, I want to go see the Mets game.
Well, my son's the same way. He's been watching more this year, but a big piece of it for him was the MLB, the video game. The video game apparently is fantastic this year. And it's gotten him really into some of the players. Yep. And then, they also, I can't believe they figured this out either, but the All-Star game was pretty fun to watch this year. And I thought the home runoff with Schwarber was awesome. Like I watched the entire game. I don't remember the last time I've watched the All-Star game start to finish, basically. And I thought the home runoff was good. Baseball making a comeback, Jacko, in every aspect except for the Yankees, who are basically the early 90s Yankees again.
I wish I could enjoy it. Yeah, that's great. Good stuff.
Are you nervous about the Red Sox at all? We're kind of breathing down your necks a little. Beat the Dodgers today.
I saw that. Part of me is I really am at the point where I want them at this point to lose as much as possible. And I know nothing is going to change, but I just want them to wear the embarrassment. Like I know Boone will never leave. Cashman is never, ever going to leave. It's not going to make any difference to Steinbrenner because 40,000 people will go. It's just like a place to go and see and be seen and enjoy the experience. So nothing will change, but I would like them to have the embarrassment just attached to them like a scarlet red letter.
House, can you believe what you're hearing, House? He's now spite rooting against the Yankees for the sake of a greater purpose.
I understand. Exactly. It's a sacrifice, and I admire it as a sports fan.
Well, House does it with the Wizards every year as he roots for a good draft pick. Let's take a break, and I want to talk about golf and true crime with you guys. All right, so I was going to do this with House last week, and I forgot, and now JackO's here, and I know, even though I didn't prep JackO at all for this, Scottie Scheffler, who crushed the British Open a week ago, and is, I think, unequivocally now the best golfer since Tiger Woods. But he's boring, JackO.
He is.
And it's not his fault. Yeah, I know you're a casual golf fan. You will come in for the majors.
Yep.
And it's fun to watch somebody be really good, but something's missing with Scottie Scheffler. And I want to dive into this because it's not his fault. I feel bad even talking about it. Sometimes you just don't have it. But do you I just wanted to make sure you agree with the premise. Like, this is probably not fixable from a personality standpoint.
100%. Maybe they could bring in Nick Swisher to coach him on swagger. Like, I don't know, maybe Nick Swisher could leave the Yankees alone and go join the Scottie Scheffler team and give him a little swagger, and he could like fist bump after swing his fists after a big putt or something. But no, it's true. And I've read this. There was just something on the Ringer. I'll give the Ringer a shout out about it after he won, and his press conferences are just, and he's sort of matter of fact about it. Like, there doesn't seem to be even a lot of joy. He's like an automaton when he wins. And even like getting arrested, during a tournament at the PGA didn't even really make him interesting. And normally that would be like, the guy would be fired up or mad or whatever. And it's just not in his demeanor. He's just like this amazing golf robot. But yeah, that's true. I don't think you get clicks, certainly not like for Tiger. Or even for DeChambeau or something, right? Or Koepka, like those guys, or Rory,
Koepka.
right? Those guys bring eyeballs. I don't think he does that at all, right?
Well, what's weird is the golf audience has been pretty good, but House, I know poor House is stuck doing a golf podcast with Nathan where they have to talk about Scottie Scheffler after he beats everybody by 6 strokes. House, what have you tried different methods to sound excited after these tournaments? Like, do you drink after? Do I even need to ask?
Well, I a couple things. In the first place, he does not possess the outward charisma. He's not even in the same league. JackO just ran through the top guys. Jordan Spieth, when Jordan Spieth was at the top of the game, like magnetic, all kinds of generations coming together because he was a phenom. He was young. He was the golden child. Scheffler just has been a very quiet kind of executioner kind of style of golfer. Now, there is a personality, and the story of the British Open in advance of him going out and kicking everybody's ass was an interview that he gave at the press conference where he talked about getting life fulfillment from something other than golf, that he liked golf, that he liked to beat the pants off of everybody, but it wasn't the true thing that gave him, joy in his heart. It didn't. And there was a lot of reaction in the golf community about, wow, he doesn't really have the fire. Like, people were sort of wondering what he was trying to convey. He's a very thoughtful guy. And when you can get stuff out of him, now I will say, I hope you don't mind. He did at the British Open, the Open Championship, let out a very long fart that a boom mic picked up. And
I heard about this.
He confessed the fart, and it was very funny. So there is something there. He just doesn't exude the charisma. And to the observation JackO made, he was the number 1 player in the world at the PGA Championship, trying to turn his car into the entrance of the major championship, and the cop stopped him and had no idea who the hell he was, and put him in the handcuffs and whisked him away. So
we've had some great athletes, and it always feels like it's a diss to talk about it. But sometimes, like Tim Duncan, House and I revere Tim Duncan. I think he's the best power forward of all time. I'll fully admit, if people were going to say he's really boring when he played, I'm like, I don't really have much of a counter argument. I'm in because I love Tim Duncan. Like, oh no, if you went to the game, like to watch the way he interacted with his teammates, it was so cool. And still not exciting. It's not like Anthony Edwards.
I think of
Anthony Edwards things. John Stockton was another one.
Scheffler as Pete Sampras. I've heard that.
Sampras is another one.
And I think that's a good comp because Sampras really was excellent for the stretch, when he was on top, and he had a nice foil with Agassi, and Scheffler has a kind of foil which should be Rory, but Rory's a tiny bit inconsistent. It could be Bryson, but Bryson was a little up and down this season as well.
Well, I wrote down top 5 signs when a superstar athlete is probably boring. Number 1, they're boring. Number 2, they play professional golf or professional tennis. Is usually a red flag. Number 3, you feel bad that you think they're boring, which I think we're in that stage here. It's like, I don't even we're doing this segment. He seems like a great guy. It's not his fault. We have a bunch of friends who it's like, it's not their job to be the life of the party. He's just going and kicking everyone's ass. Number 4, and this happened during the British Open, the announcers were talking. They were trying to almost promote that he's less boring than he used to be. But the way they were doing it was like, well, Scottie, he's made a lot of an effort recently to open up and to be more personable and to share more. And it's like, well, you're definitely boring if outsiders are
grasping at here.
He's opening up. I remember they used to do that with Sampras. And then the 5th one, which hasn't happened yet, is the media narrative shifting to people worrying that you're so boring you might actually hurt the sport. Which we're not there yet, right?
And I don't think golf isn't that way, because if he continues on the streak that he's on of like very high, he's won, he's finished in the top 3 of 10 of the last 16 majors. He's won 4 of the last 16 majors. Like those are Tiger style numbers. If he continues on that accomplishment all by itself is thrilling to the golf community. I don't know the answer as to whether or not you guys will, make it appointment TV to catch the PGA Championship because he's up by 6 strokes, going into a Sunday.
Yeah, you're just out at that point.
Maybe so.
Well,
it's going to be great someday when you look at everybody's legacy and you're like Bobby Jones, the first great American golfer, and Ben Hogan, came back from a year after a car crash and, was a superstar, and Arnold Palmer, the people's champion, and Nicklaus, the best ever, and Tiger revolutionized the game, and Scottie Scheffler. Remember that time he farted?
The fart heard around the world.
Maybe that's the thing.
He was just a cold-hearted
vices.
killer, but he farted that one time. That was something, huh?
Yeah, but maybe farting could be his vice. Well, House, I was thinking 2 things with him. One, having a reliable rival where there's like real dislike, I think would really help. So we're just going to have to just feed some sort of Bryson versus him or Rory versus him or whatever.
We have the Ryder Cup coming up. So there could be somebody on the European side, either Jon Rahm or Rory McIlroy. Would
talking shit to Scheffler.
Yes, trying to get it out of him.
The other thing is maybe we need to work. Maybe he needs like more of a character as a caddy.
Like a fluff?
Maybe like a Shane Gillis type. Maybe somebody who's like a complete wild card, and Scheffler is super loyal to him, but he keeps offending people with like jokes, or I don't know. Maybe there's something we could work on with the caddy thing. The only other thing is the thing that really works is for something bad to happen off the field, and then you have to rally back and come back. Right?
Yeah,
you hate to see that, but
yeah.
We don't want that to happen with Scottie.
No,
that's the third way this could play out. But other than this, House, I think Ryder Cup is our best chance.
Yeah, I like that.
To have him be like the Rambo in the mid '80s defending America's honor. Then he becomes the patriot and the hero, Scottie Scheffler, and now I have some momentum with something.
The challenge
what if the USA is down on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And he's the guy that needs the comeback, like like a Miracle on Ice deal or something,
that would be
on
good.
Grass, and he leads the charge to win the Ryder Cup. That would be a good narrative for him.
That sounds great.
Yeah, the challenge for him is the shadow that Bryson DeChambeau will cast at the Ryder Cup, because he has become like the Captain America. Like he's the people's champion. He's the people's champion. When he beat Rory McIlroy at the U.S. Open down at Pinehurst, they were chanting USA as he was walking up the fairway,
right,
with his chance to win the tournament. So, but Scottie, some kind of comeback thing at the Ryder Cup could help.
That'd be good.
Speaking of golf, Happy Gilmore too. Jacko hasn't seen it yet. I watched it, house watched it. We don't have to talk long about it. It's if you love the first movie, it's kind of a must watch. I was very surprised by all the cameos. I'm gonna hold off on a review. But
that's always
you don't have to. You can say hold off. It was terrible.
But it was terrible, but it was also good. Like I kind of enjoyed having all these people in my life again.
Was it.
House. The most fascinating thing to me is it was basically a 2-hour critique of the Live Tour. That seemed to be the actual purpose of the movie, is to use this fake Live Tour thing they had as a proxy to make them the villains, and then to just bring in a bunch of actual golfer cameos. And let's just say probably John Daly, who doesn't golf anymore, was the best one. But some of the other ones, I don't expect them to maybe move into acting full time.
Probably not.
Be my guess. It's just there's cameos. It's kind of like they didn't fully have a script, so they loaded as many cameos as they possibly could. But
I enjoyed that.
House, was there any interesting piece for you with all the PGA golfers that were in there?
No. I like very much Adam Sandler sitting at a table with Lee Trevino and Jack Nicklaus.
I agree.
Yeah, that was like,
and those guys having to do lines.
Yeah, the legends.
Fred Couples was there.
Yeah. They kept bringing Fred Couples, Blueberry Parfait. I think that was. That resonated. Another dessert, Mr. Couples? Oh, why, yes, please. That certainly struck a chord with me.
So it was a little nostalgia ride.
That's right. I agree with that.
It was what it was, Jacko. I still think Jacko's Jacko, you'll end up watching it.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. I'm sure I'll tune in at some point. See how much I can take.
It's fine. All right. What we really want to talk about on Netflix is the You Have Me with Missing Girl and a cruise.
Right.
I think this has been a huge summer for cruise documentaries, because Poop cruise was great. I'll
Yeah.
never go on a cruise. Have either of you ever been on a cruise?
No.
I have. I went on one of the Disney cruises. We took my kid for his birthday.
When was that?
I think it was
Did you hide that from
his
me?
9th birthday or his 10th birthday, or maybe somewhere in one of those. And he was in a transition year where he was too young to get access to the video game room that he really wanted to be in, and too old. The age appropriate room. He's like, this is boring as F. I don't want no part of any of this. So we basically, had to pay for Wi-Fi so he could play some of the video games that he wanted to play. And then, placate him with chicken fingers.
This sounds worse than the poop cruise.
He wanted to get off as quickly as possible. As soon as it became apparent that he wasn't allowed into the video game room that he wanted to be in, we went to shows and stuff. We tried. But he's like, I want off. We made a mistake.
JackO, I'm never doing it. One of the things I love about cruises, and they dive into this, it's called Amy Bradley is Missing. But one of the things they dive into is like cruises. There's basically like no laws once you get in a cruise.
Right.
You see, like that's it. You just don't know anything's possible. Did you know this? Because I didn't fully know this.
No, I didn't realize that to the extent to which the cruise is like its own entity unto itself, including laws or lack thereof. Yeah, I was unaware. But this documentary made it all too aware. I would never, and I have 2 daughters. My daughters will never get anywhere near the ocean, let alone not even on a cruise.
That's how I felt. I'm going to discourage all of my immediate family from ever being on a cruise. One of the things when the girl, so this Amy Bradley goes missing.
Yeah.
In the wee hours, like 5:30 house. Like she's in the cabin next to her dad who sees her. She's on like the little balcony.
Cabin with her dad.
Oh yeah, she's on the
one
balcony.
Cabin it's her 21-year-old brother and her parents. They had one cabin.
Right.
And he sees her sleeping on the balcony. Yeah.
Right.
5:30.
Maybe she's having a drink or a cigarette or something. And then a half hour later doesn't see her at all. And nobody knows what happens.
Never seen again.
One of the great things that, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, yeah. That's what I thought. I'm like, why is this 3 episodes? I'm like, she fell in the ocean. She got up to throw up or she threw herself off the boat and that was ball game. But it turns out maybe not the case.
Okay.
Well, they zag against that because, well, first of all, the cruise, they don't like send the alarm that they let everybody off like 3 hours later on Carousel, whatever it's called. Carousel. And that's another. I'm on like 6 missteps and mispronunciations this pod. I'm in rare summer form. But they let her off. They let everyone off, but they don't know where she is yet, and that actually makes it worse. So then the theories become she's actually out there. She was kidnapped. She's part of sex trafficking, and then a couple different people see her. And House, the whole doc is like these people being like, I was in a bathroom. And and I knew it was weird because somebody was monitoring her. And then I realized 2 years later, that's who it was. It was Amy and her family, like basically just, I don't know, losing their minds, like trying to figure out what happened to her. Now it's been 25, 26 years, JackO?
Yeah, since 1998.
Holy cow.
And there's a guy that they want you to hate who was the cruise director. And he couldn't be like any more nonchalant about this. And it was like, did you ever think about like shutting the boat down? And he's like, well, yeah, she was missing, but there was 2,500 other people that wanted to go to Curacao or whatever.
Right.
Right. So, and I was like, yeah, she jumped off the boat, unfortunately, or fell off the boat. But then there's a lot of conspiracies where people seem to see her after the fact. And there's some weird internet things. And it's horrible for the family. It's horrific because they still have her car like washed and tuned up and like to come back to.
They kept her Miata.
Oh, it's just, I can't even imagine what they go through, and it's just got to be horrific. And basically the behavior of everybody involved in this doesn't make like a lick of sense for the most part. Like the FBI, they're like, we can't do that. We can't investigate that. We can't do this. And I'm like, no, but I think you could. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
And
there seems like things to follow up on.
Carousel seems like a lot of shady stuff might be going on there too. Like
so
they're afraid to alert the police and
and you think like since we've already trashed cruises, we might as well trash the entire Caribbean too. Like everybody goes to a vacation in the Caribbean and you think like, oh, it's all good at the resort or whatever. But like Curacao had like this underbelly of like mobsterism and prostitution, and it was like areas you can't even go to, and the police are like, I was like, Jesus, it's kind of troubling.
House is going next week now. House just booked the flight.
You're checking a lot of my boxes, Johnny. You're checking a lot of my boxes.
Not talking House out of this. So the big thing was there was some picture, and it was on like a prostitution site that looked like her 7 years later. And it really did look like her, JackO. That was the one where I was like,
the scary part.
Yeah. And then there was a thought that maybe she got pregnant, and that
they were holding it over her head.
The traffickers were like, you'll lose your kid.
Right.
There was, she turned out she came out to her parents. And then the question was, is that why she jumped? Because she was hiding the secret. Her parents didn't accept her. So they go through all the machinations of what might have happened. And then you think it's leading to some ending where it's like, we're going to find out what happened.
Yeah.
And then it's like, that's it. We never found out what happened.
No.
And then you just kind of go from there to the internet, and you go to like Reddit and hope there's some Amy Bradley site, which of course there is. And it's like 2:30 in the morning, and I'm reading the Amy Bradley Reddit site, trying to find out what the fuck happened. I don't know.
Right.
And I still don't know what happened.
It's well done. And it's like a 3-episode unsolved mysteries, essentially, like, because it doesn't get solved. And unfortunately for her family, and it's horrible. And my wife is currently in Ireland with her sister. I hope she may be at a Coldplay show. I'm not sure, but let's hope. So I was by myself, and I'm like watching it down here in my finished basement, and it like freaked me out. And I'm like, they're going to come traffic me? Like, what? You're not on a cruise ship. Come on, be a man.
I watched the Idaho College Murders one too on Amazon. And that's 4 episodes, and probably should have been 2. But that one, they do. You guys got to watch that one, because basically, and it's a terrible story, but the guy who ends up being the killer is somebody who was studying like criminology, and like clearly like lost his mind and was like, now I want to see if I can commit one of these terrible murders, and nobody will be able to catch me because I've gone to school for this. And this fucking dumbass leaves his cell phone on as he drives to and from where the murder sites were. So all they had to do was ping his cell phone. It's like, note to all the future murders out there, leave the cell phone in your house. I don't know. Like they didn't cover that in his criminology course, apparently, JackO. I don't know.
No, that's
surprised
day one
by
stuff.
how poor his performance was.
That's day one serial killer stuff.
Leave the cell phone in your house.
Speaking of serial killers and Netflix, I'm 5 years late to the party, but I just banged through the only 2 seasons of Mindhunter. Which was good. That was so good. Oh, that was a great show. And I'm so bummed out that it ended. And then I was like, there was rumors they were going to bring it back, and so well done. It was so good. But yeah, between this cruise one, I've been freaked out a lot. But I'd rather watch these depressing, horrible things than the Yankees. So that's what it's come to.
House, you're not true crime, or you are?
No, I enjoy it very much. What was the one about the guy in Wisconsin? That was railroaded. The guy who his family.
Oh, that's like early COVID stuff.
Right,
that one. Yeah, what the hell was that called? The OG Making of a Murder or something?
Yes, exactly. That. Yeah, I thought that was very riveting. I enjoyed it very much. And the murder, the podcast that turned into getting the conviction overturned here in up in near Baltimore.
I think this true crime stuff is never going to end.
No, people love that.
It's one of the few things you can watch, like if you're a couple. It's kind of a something for everybody, which a lot of these shows don't. Johnny, there's a show on Netflix called Hunting Wives that I would recommend.
Okay. Somebody else was just talking about that.
It's a scripted, just a lot of nudity and a very horny show about these
intrigued.
Texas housewives. There's a murder. You get to see a dead body early, so you know what you're in for. And then it gets really horny, and it's right in your wheelhouse. I've known you for a long time.
My wife and I just watched Your Friends and Neighbors with friend of the pod, John Hamm. Yeah. Your friend. That was a good one. That was a good one.
All of these shows start with the murder in the first minute, and then we go backwards.
Yeah.
That's the model. So if we ever do the Scottie Scheffler story to make it more interesting, it'll start with his caddy being murdered in the first minute. And then
hopefully somebody left their cell phone behind.
House, could we get him a more exciting caddy like in wrestling when
his caddy
when
is
they would give the boring wrestler a good manager, like a fun manager?
A lot of people would say that his caddy is the thing,
The
that
secret sauce?
Yes, because the guy
Okay.
caddied for Bubba Watson before and won 2 Masters with Bubba Watson, and now has all these majors being on Scottie's bag, and they have a symbiosis. They're both, they have the same religious background and religious belief. They pray together. There's a whole thing with the families, so it's probably not going to happen.
All right, we've answered it all. Ryder Cup is the key. JackO's turned his back on the Yankees, and don't go on a cruise. House, great to see you as always.
Yeah.
JackO, a true pleasure. I'm glad you're well. Talk to you soon, my brother.
All right, boys.
Thanks for coming on.
Anytime. Thanks.
All right, we're taping this Sunday afternoon. He already wrote about Hulk Hogan for the ringer.com, a great website. Talked about it on the Ringer Wrestling Show. David Shoemaker is here. We've been working together since 2011. There's been a lot of ups and downs with wrestling. We worked on the Mr. McMahon documentary series together. Knew the Hulk Hogan day was going to come at some point. Age 71. Very complicated death. It was interesting when somebody has this outsized importance on a sport, or in this case, what do we call it now? Professional entertainment sports entertainment, whatever we're using these days.
I've gone full circle to just saying sport again.
Let's go back. We'll go back. Somebody who was like basically, he wasn't Babe Ruth for this sport, but more like Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last 20 years becomes this huge part of the legacy. I want to skip all that and come back to it later and just go back to the 80s specifically and what happened. And you wrote about a lot of it. Does wrestling become wrestling without Hulk Hogan is the big question. And everyone has asked this. Dave Meltzer wrote about it in his newsletter this week about, could you argue that a lot of this stuff might have been in motion already? The greases were skidded. The skids were greased.
Yeah.
I still feel like it had to have him involved for it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, listen, in everything in pro wrestling, there's a lot of what's accepted as truth or what's told as truth is just BS, right? Everything's sort of a work. Everything's trying to get the storyteller over or put forward some angle. So truth is really hard to come by. I do think that wrestling going national would have happened with or without Vince McMahon, with or without the WWF, with or without Hulk Hogan, for that matter. I think, it was already on some cable TV networks, and as those things expanded, I think that, Georgia Wrestling or if it was the Crockett's, whoever it was, the AWA, World Class, somebody would have become a real big national promotion. But it's undeniable that Vince McMahon had a very specific eye for a certain style of this professional wrestling that really worked on a national level in and out of almost everybody's lives. And Hulk Hogan was undeniably a big part of that. Even if you just look at the Hogan part, I've tried to run this counterfactual in my head so many times. Like, what if it was Dusty Rhodes? What if it was Paul Orndorff? What if it was, what if superstar Billy Graham had been at his peak right then? What if it had been Ric Flair for that matter? There's so many things. I think it could have worked. I still find it hard to believe. I mean, Dusty's really, Vince dropped the bomb on us that he was considering Dusty when we were doing the documentary. He was considering Dusty for that Hogan spot. And I mean, Dusty's the only guy with that level of sort of babyface star power. But
I don't think it works with him the same way.
It's just not I started watching wrestling as a kid because it was like real life comic books. It was like, it was the muscles, it was the screaming, it was the monologues. Hulk Hogan was just a real life toy, a real life superhero. And he was just incredibly special as a performer, even though it's easy to look back now and say his matches were repetitive, his storylines were repetitive, whatever you want to say. He was just an incredibly special performer.
Repetitive is a compliment. It was the same formula every time. So I think it was three things. I think it was Vince, I think it was Cable, and I think it was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But I think the Cable piece was the most important because Cable was pushed everything from local to national. When I was growing up on the East Coast, we got WWF, and I didn't even really know there were other, wrestling federations. I remember being in Boston after my parents got divorced and, spending weekends with my dad and stuff in the mid 80s, and they had Texas on.
Mm-hmm.
And being like, what's this? There's, you only knew it from the wrestling magazines, never saw any of those guys. And then all of a sudden they were on. So stuff was popping up. But I think the cable pushing in national was a big piece. Vince having the vision to understand that this was happening in the moment and trying to mobilize, like, I have to beat everybody else to this spot. But I don't think it happens without Hogan. And I think if he doesn't have Hogan, I think he tries to beat people, but I think the South has a much better chance maybe to go national because they had TBS already. Yeah. Right. And I think maybe TBS in the South, and if Ric Flair had become the biggest star, maybe if Kerry Von Erich doesn't get in a motorcycle accident, there's some what ifs on that side that it plays out differently. And maybe they're the ones, not WWF. It needed to be Hogan.
I think so. I mean, I just don't think you can overstate the degree to which Hulk Hogan just worked in mainstream pop culture in those days. For one thing, he was whatever he was. They said 6'8". Even he was a legit 6'5", back in those days, and he would go on the Tonight Show or whatever and just tower over everybody. And that in the days, obviously wrestling's always walked this fine line between how real it is and how kind of wink they're being in public. But to its earliest days, the most important thing was to have wrestlers look like guys who could beat you up, right? So Hogan, but Hogan looked like that guy, but he also was a sort of circus clown personality. He could go on these shows and laugh at himself and laugh at everybody else, and he fit on MTV. He fit on, like I said, late night shows. He was just sort of, I think people looked at him. We had the Dolly Parton bit in that documentary early on. I mean, there was. I think people just looked at him and they immediately could process what they were looking at. And part of that was that it was a wrestling that was somewhat self-aware because he was so corny, but also just so cool.
Well, you can't overstate Rocky III. And when we were working on the Mr. McMahon doc, Rocky III was such a big part of it because Rocky III was, Star Wars was the biggest multi-sequel franchise we had, but Rocky II, Rocky III was in the conversation, and his extended cameo in Rocky III, which it was funny. I was on a text this weekend with Sal and Gus and a couple other people. We were like, where does Thunder Lips just rank in the Rocky characters rankings? Just characters who just hit a home run. And Thunder Lips is just in the top 5. He comes in. It's an all-time Dion Waiters performance that we talk about in the rewatchables. And just crushes 6 minutes of it. And it was just so clear he was this larger than life wrestling star. And after that happened, then he was at AWA, which I think they were running some stuff on ESPN, but I don't really remember seeing him that much. I was watching a ton of wrestling, but I do remember the whole storyline with Backlund, the Sheik beating Backlund, Hulk Hogan coming in as reinforcements for Backlund. Then I watched him win the title live on the MSG network. Yeah. Because at that point I was in Connecticut. My parents had been divorced. I was there and it was on, and it was, I can't tell you how exciting it was.
I came along right after that. I was actually I wrote about this in the piece. I was going back through the timeline saying, I remember where I was and I watched that, where I was and I watched that. And I almost said, I remember being in my TV room when Hogan beat the Sheik. I was like, no. I wasn't watching it. I started watching because Hogan beat the Sheik, because of this like tidal wave of popularity that came after that.
It just felt new because Backlund had gotten stale. And I think it had 4.5 plus years, and he was just this baby-faced All-American, and it felt a little stale. There was other stuff going on, other battles, other villains, and Andre was looming over everything. But it felt like we needed a hero, which was where we were in America, because that's when Stallone has First Blood. That's in 82 or 83, but leads to Rambo First Blood 2 in 85. We have Schwarzenegger coming in. We have Ronald Reagan taking on the Russians, and we did this when we did the documentary, this little section about testosterone superheroes defending America. Hulk leaned into that as much as anybody. Like after they changed the Eye of the Tiger song and he does the Real American, like this was a real way to market yourself. I am your patriotic superhero. It wasn't going to happen with Bob Backlund.
No, I mean, and Bob Backlund in some ways, in more traditional lens, might have fit that role a little bit better, but it was just a different casting call when it came to 80s pop culture, right? I mean, it's exactly like you said. The competition, when pro wrestling is at its best, it's not competing against pro wrestling. It's competing against other things in the mainstream. And you're right. I mean, what its competition then was those action movies, I mean, that was it. For me, like I said, younger, I mean, wrestling literally came on after Saturday morning cartoons. So at some point you just got, you were watching, these muscle bound dudes on cartoons, and then you just sort of got old enough to watch the real thing. You matured at 6 years old or whatever.
Well,
but
and it was never cool either. And that's one of the things that shifted in the mid 80s was as it became more mainstream, there was this weird validation that came with that. Like, maybe I'm not a fucking complete loser. Like this is now on MTV. Like shit's happening.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through, I guess, 3 of those at least now in our lifetimes where wrestling got cool again, and every wrestling fan has that same feeling every time. I remember I talked to the guys who filmed the curtain call video in the Attitude Era days, and they were told their story about meeting each other. They were like, we were the only 2 guys wearing wrestling T-shirts at high school, and then everybody started wearing wrestling T-shirts. They were kind of despondent. They're like, we're not. We didn't want to be nerds, but now we're sad that we're not unique. But yeah, Hogan, it really did just change everything, man. I mean, I think I was always the biggest wrestling fan amongst my friends, when I was a kid, but everybody was into wrestling. Like every boy that I grew up with, could tell you what happened on Saturday night's Main Event, and Hulk Hogan was such a big part of that. The other big part of every big wrestling moment is expansion. And they went from, 0 pay-per-views to, I think they were at 3 when Hogan left the first time, but those, these huge, they went through closed circuit. They went, on to pay-per-view, and then the Saturday night's Main Event phenomenon. And that's to say nothing of the MTV shows and all that. I mean, it was just enormous as a cultural influence at that point in time.
Yeah, there was just little checkpoints. I think Thunder Lips helped. Hogan coming over, Hogan winning the title, and that becoming like a huge thing. The Slaughter versus Sheik kind of showdown that really helped from a just where we were in a Cold War standpoint. MTV having Cyndi Lauper kind of be involved and make it seem like she thought wrestling was cool. It was like, okay. And then WrestleMania. But even after WrestleMania, it was on USA. They had that Tuesday Night Titans show. It was like a talk show. Vince McMahon did the Letterman anniversary thing. That was a big deal.
Yep.
And then Hogan just started selling out everywhere, and the mainstream media started writing about it, talking about it, doing news segments about it. I still feel like after he won the title, that first year or so that he had, he was about as big as any athlete, sports entertainment. Like this dude's just selling out NBA. He could have sold out NBA arenas. And you name the city every night after night. It just didn't matter. Everyone went to go see him or wanted to see him.
Yeah,
and that was it.
I don't know if it was Meltzer. I think it was Alvarez actually who said that you put Hogan's name on the marquee and it sells an extra 4,000 tickets that day. It's just, and that's, it's just immediate name recognition. People buy tickets. And it was, the business just blew up. It was absolutely crazy. And I know, and there were times, I have one memory, I wrote about it in the piece about seeing Hogan when I was pretty young. And I was trying to find the date of the show and get it all specific. I looked back and they had 3 house shows in one night. On the night that I saw them, they were all in Kentucky. They were also working in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Like they were just going wall to wall with this product in large part because of this celebrity that Hulk Hogan brought.
And a lot of the stuff he was doing had been done in different forms before him. It wasn't like he was Neil Armstrong landing on the moon, but he elevated or perfected certain things. Like when Paul Orndorff turned on him, because everyone always points to Macho Man turning on him, which was the most famous one. And that was on the Main Event show at that point. But Orndorff turning on him, which was basically the Zbyszko San Martino. Wait, I thought you guys were buddies. Oh my God, you turned on him. I mean, that's been wrestling 101. But when that happened, and then Hogan we just had this steady stream of either he was buddies with them and the guy turned because they were jealous. So they couldn't be Hogan, so they had to like get him back, or just like these weird villains that would come in out of nowhere. Like,
there's the
bigger
monsters.
the better. Yeah, big monsters that our patriotic superhero had to defeat. And it was the same recipe. They would beat the shit out of him. They would beat the shit out of him. He'd Hulk up. He'd come back. And the match would end the same way every time.
And they would wag the finger, punches to the face, clothesline, leg drop. It was a tried and true recipe. And you're right, they did. The Orndorff thing was similar to the Zbyszko San Martino thing, except the same thing with Orndorff and Macho Man. if you look back, Hogan's kind of actually the asshole in all those situations.
Right.
Like that's sort of the low key thing about Hogan through his career is he wrestled like a heel. He sort of was a heel to his friends, but he was still the babyface of record. He was still the one that they had to turn against. And talk about repetition. One of my least favorite Hogan moments when he came back at WrestleMania 9 after Bret Hart lost to Yokozuna to take the title from Yokozuna. That was the same thing that happened with Backlund and the Sheik. Basically, he came back, let back. He's like, I'm buddies with the champ, the now ex champ, but I'm just going to take the belt while he's out of the picture. He's kind of a jerk at times in character, but people kind of love that. They loved him no matter what he did. I think that's what made Hogan so irrepressible. But you're right to mention those moments. I mean, after WrestleMania 3, when it was him and Andre, and we don't have to skip over that entirely. I mean, WrestleMania, I mean, the Macho Man match at WrestleMania was absolutely huge. The mega powers colliding. And then the Warrior match where he was supposed to pass the torch to the Ultimate Warrior, did pass the torch in a very good match at WrestleMania to the Ultimate Warrior. But that
Those
was
were
sort
massive
of it.
matches. Well, I mean, going back to Andre, which I should have mentioned sooner, which has been written about and discussed ad nauseum, and we've been involved in multiple documentaries about that one.
And heard multiple versions of the events from Hogan himself.
Hogan couldn't keep track of what he told us. But I could just say this, like the Leonard versus Hagler fight was within 2 weekends of it. And it might have even been within 1 weekend of it. And Leonard coming out of retirement, Sugar Ray, to fight Hagler. And it was just like one of the biggest boxing fights of all time. Everyone was so excited about it. And Hogan Andre was around there. And I love both. And I was equally excited for both.
Yeah.
Like it felt like they were on par, that this matchup was on par with the biggest possible boxing event that we could have. And that's just where it was. And it kept going. And the Macho Man, I think that's been underrated over the years, how big that was and how they used main event. You look back at some of the main event ratings. What did I send you that one time a couple months ago? I texted you how it was like 26 million people watching one of the main events.
The Hogan Andre main event that had the twin referees.
Another famous moment.
I think I just read. I think it was either. I think it was 33 million people, which is still
think about that.
A record. Yeah,
that would be bigger than a Super Bowl now. Yeah, that was the other thing with Hogan. There were so many things like that were going on, but there was some great unintentional comedy with him when he would try to act. Like when the pinnacle was him versus Macho Man over Miss Elizabeth. In the hospital room, and Macho Man telling him, "You got jealous eyes.
Yeah,
you got jealous eyes." And Hogan's doing "What do you mean? What do you mean, Macho?" And it's just so we're kind of making fun of him as we're idolizing him in the '80s. Where it's like this guy's a complete idiot, but we love him anyway.
It's totally true. I mean, listen, he got in the Hogan Andre feud in the Piper's Pit segment that sets the whole thing up. When Andre grabs his shirt and tears it off. He unintentionally grabbed his necklace and tore it off too, and it cut Hogan in the chest. And Hogan was holding the necklace, and he's bleeding.
Yeah,
and that's one of those serendipitous things that makes wrestling so amazing. Because without the blood, he's doing the same shit you were just describing. He's like, "Why, Andre? Why?" But the blood makes it feel like a real moment, and we're just all totally roped in. I mean, Andre was also, of all of those big menacing bad guys, I think the only one who was really bigger than him, who looked like he could beat up Hulk Hogan. So that helped a lot too. And of course, Andre's history. I mean, he was just terrifying.
Yeah, and meanwhile, he could barely move. So you have Hogan, much like Stallone, much like Schwarzenegger, much like some of our other favorites from that era, where there's like unintentional comedy. They're a 101. We love them. There's a question of how long can you keep this going? How long? What's the shelf life of a gimmick like this? And we hit the 90s, and he's had this, phenomenal run. But then we have the steroid trial. He's still hulking up. It's just not working the same way. The crowd's starting to flip a tiny bit, and it leads to him eventually starting to do TV shows, going to WCW, but then improbably ending up with this other incredible moment. With WCW and NWO, and him becoming the third man, and Hogan going heel, which is in the running for biggest wrestling moment of all time. I don't know if it's first, but it's in the top 4, right?
Oh, dude, I feel like I should have an answer prepared for this. Yeah, it's definitely up there.
I mean, top 4, it has to be mentioned.
It absolutely changed everything. Is it the biggest moment of Hulk Hogan's career? I mean, maybe you can make the case that everything he did led up to this moment. Like it was the culmination of 30 years in the ring that made it so poignant.
Well, and to reinvent something that seemed like it had run its course.
Yeah,
I think is one of the hardest things to do. You know, and like we've seen athletes try to, like Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay. Even that seems somewhat realistic. Hogan reinventing himself, becoming the biggest heel in the business, and basically flipping WWE versus WCW was like the odds on that were like 100-1.
No, it was really, I mean, it was really improbable. And, you know, just like in a wrestling match where if you have a big moment coming, you kind of like, they lower the stakes a little bit for like the 4 minutes leading up to it. You know, they're not going to do anything too crazy. They accidentally did that in WCW by making his first year and a half there just the most boring thing possible. You know, He was there just replaying the hits. It was just like a fake. It was like what wrestling is in a movie, you know, just this just silly Hulk Hogan feuds against people you didn't care about. And then the announcers are there, Tony Schiavone, God bless him, screaming his head off like this is the most important thing in the world. When he came down to the ring to take, to presumably take on the Outsiders, and then he joined them. I mean, that was just an absolutely irreplaceable moment in pro wrestling history. Yeah,
he's the third man. No, so he gets like one more year out of that. And then it seems over again. WCW completely falls apart. There's some great stuff that in the couple days after he passed, some stuff I even forgot about, like the 2000 Bash on the Beach, and just when it's gone so bad. We're like almost Dirk Diggler jerking off in the church parking lot level, like Grizzly. That's how bad it goes. But then we have the merger. He comes back, and then he has another iconic all-time moment against The Rock in WrestleMania, which probably the best moment of the whole match was when they're just in the ring beforehand staring at each other and the crowd's going apeshit, and they just kind of do the facing different directions move, just kind of soaking it in, and he ends up winning the title. I think I even wrote about this for ESPN the magazine about like Hogan's last comeback. So this was the last great thing for him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the WCW NWO run was just a few years, and it had some great moments. You know, everyone remembers the Sting feud. Everyone remembers, Goldberg and the Georgia Dome. Everybody remembers, Hogan versus losing the title to Lex Luger, which was an incredibly transformative moment if you were just the right age to really love Lex Luger. There's a lot of good moments, but by the end, he was just, the internet had come to exist. And Hogan was one of the first guys that really got saddled with the baggage of being a guy who was like kind of hard to work with backstage or had too much creative control. Let's just say it wasn't really. Yeah,
he had both.
And I mean, listen, the moment that he passed on, I got like 5 texts in a row that were just like some version of the joke he said to St. Peter, "That's not going to work for me, brother." You know, like when that phrase is just everywhere. You know, when it comes to any joke about wrestlers being hard to work with backstage. But, he had all this baggage, and then not coming over immediately when WWF bought WCW was not his fault at all, but like it kind of saddled him with a little bit more. When he finally showed up, we were excited to see the NWO again, but like, no one quite knew. Hogan was not just like, it wasn't not a triumphant return for him until that match. That match against The Rock was another just a moment can only exist in wrestling where the entire, God bless Canada, the entire crowd just decided we will accept you back, Hulk Hogan. And and it happened in this match. He enters as the heel. He walks out as the biggest babyface the business has ever seen once again. And, I don't want to rewrite history, but if he had hung up the boots that night, he probably would have gone down as the greatest wrestler that ever lived, like full stop. People would still be making the case for the guys who could work better from bell to bell, like Flair and Macho, whoever else. But Hogan, that to me, was the end. I don't care about the McMahon feud. It was just sort of another, they had to do it, but whatever. The Mr. America run was funny, but whatever.
Him winning
that
the
was-
title is probably the epilogue, and then
Yeah.
anything after that, literally everything after that, you could probably toss in the garbage bag. Because the cheat sheets were bad for him. Once
dirt
that really
sheets,
started,
yeah.
the dirt sheets and the
Yeah.
what did I call them? The cheat
The
sheets.
cheat sheets.
No,
yeah,
I'm
that's
washed up like Hogan. The dirt sheets. That was bad because that was the first time people like us were like, "Wait, Hogan's a dick."
Yeah.
I didn't. Wait,
Well, it
Hogan.
wasn't even that he
Everybody
was a
hates working
dick.
with him.
It wasn't even so much that he was a dick, because it was just that he had the power and the influence to demand a creative control in his contract, and they said yes. Like he's like, I'm not gonna stop doing Thunder in Paradise unless you give me creative control. Yeah. And they're like, okay, we'll get. And the people that are paying this money don't. I mean, this isn't the promoters. They don't. This is Turner. I mean, like this is the big parent company. They just think Hulk Hogan's famous. Whatever it takes, we'll bring him in. But then,
unfortunately, every instinct he has was. And then Hulk will come in and Hulk will pin so-and-so.
Yeah, exactly.
Be like,
Exactly.
"Hey,
Well, that's
here's
what
my idea.
Unfortunately, that's what almost every wrestler thinks. He also did help out a lot of people along the way. I talked to Kevin Sullivan before he passed along, and he was leading that Dungeon of Doom stable that Hogan was feuding with before the NWO. And he was like, "Oh yeah, all those guys were just Hogan's buddies, and Hogan, and we just had to keep him employed. So I just made this thing up for everybody to do something."
Right.
That was just Hogan. Hogan had a lot of dudes, but Brutus the Barber, the nasty boys who kept jobs for a long time because they were associated with him. So I guess I'm sure they're going to miss him, especially.
Well, sometimes this happens. Sometimes you die at the perfect time for a career move. Not obviously for yourself, because dying's never a win. But from a career standpoint, sometimes people can die at the perfect time. People can last way too long. Or in some cases, the post-career stuff can then overshadow whatever happened in the career, which I think is a big piece of the scandal with him and Bubba the Love Sponge and the sex tape and all the N-word stuff and the racist stuff. Like it's really rough. And he was never really apologetic enough about it, and then even when he went to talk to the roster, that apology didn't work. And
that might have been the worst part of it. I mean, I went back through as I was writing my piece, and this is so morbid, but I was like, if he had died, like what are the moments that he could have died and he would have been remembered purely positively? I mean, it's kind of any moment before that tape came out. But really, if he had, listen, he had all this success in Japan before his WWE run. If he had like, just disappeared, I won't say died, just disappeared after WrestleMania 1, it would have been like, Jim Morrison. Like it would have been one of these like crazy, like, look at this run and then he's just gone and like whatever. Obviously,
I used to say that about the Smashing Pumpkins guy.
Oh, yeah.
If he had just disappeared in 1998 and nobody ever saw him again, we would be like, genius.
Yes,
Cobain,
absolutely.
Corgan. Like sometimes and then sometimes all the stuff you do after ends up infecting how you think of the best stuff.
It's true. But like, yeah, it was basically the past, if anything, before the past 15 years. And he would have just been the greatest icon this business has ever seen. I mean, Hogan's Knows Best, the reality show, wasn't like deplorable. It was just like you understood why he did it. And it kind of made him look like a goof and kind of weirdly obsessed with his daughter. But like, you get it. Like it was cool that there was a wrestler getting that kind of attention. But
the Raw was the shocking one. Did you go to that first Netflix Raw? I can't remember.
No, I was not there. I was watching it at home, but the boos were just as loud in my home theater.
Oh, my Lord. I went with Ben. And Ben's always, he's not reading up on what the legends, how they're fucking up their lives post-career. He just knows Hogan from the wrestling stuff. And Hogan came out, and it wasn't like, oh, some people are booing him, some people are cheering him. This was like just passionate boos. And the most fascinating thing about it, in the old days, he would have fed off the crowd and flipped.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have been like, oh, I'm getting a ton of heat right now. Let me actually play off that and be like, how dare you? You guys are so ungrateful. Everything I did for this country. And he just would have flipped it the way, honestly, Rock kind of flipped it a little bit during the lead up to WrestleMania last year. But he didn't. And he seemed like he was just going through his plan. He was confused. He had Jimmy Hart behind him waving a flag. And it was awful. It really was like, and I think it would have been a bigger story, but tragically the next day was when the fire started ripping through California, and there wasn't a lot of like dissection for 3 days of what happened at this Netflix Raw event. But I got to say, in the moment, Shoemaker, I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe like it was like actual hatred. It felt like, and I don't think it was just the Trump stuff. I think it was a variety of things.
No, I mean, you mentioned it before when he came back, and again, this is the dirt sheets getting the better of Hogan. When he came back to give the speech to the locker room after, kind of being banned for a year and a half after the racist video came out.
Yeah.
He had apologized in the news. He apologized in ABC News and in People magazine. And an apology, the fact desk, when I was writing my piece, said, "Are you sure we're going to use the word apology here? Because the words 'I'm sorry' are never spoken." But I was like, it's kind of an apology, whatever. But
it was an acknowledgement.
It was an acknowledgement that he regrets it or whatever. But then he came back into the locker room, and instead of saying, "I'm sorry I'm sorry for being a racist. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for saying these things," he said, "You guys better watch out for hidden cameras because they can really ruin your life." Like that was it. And then everybody there, I know guys are in that locker room, but they're just like, "I'm done with them. I just can't." After that, and fans all knew about it too. So that was a lot of what it went into it. I mean, WWE does this thing now, and they have a very, very savvy. Very, very savvy PR department. But they'll do this thing. You'll see them do this thing where they leak out a story like WWE considering a relationship with Hulk Hogan's beer company. And then 2 days later it happens. And it's almost like they're doing a trial balloon, but deliberately not waiting for the results, just so after it happens, they can say, "Hey, we put out a trial balloon," right. And they did it with Hogan. And they said, "Oh, he's going to come promote his beer." But now that just meant all the fans were ready for it, right? So instead of it being a surprise that Hogan's there and he just happens to be wearing a beer t-shirt and he's there to hug everybody, they were all just like, "He's coming back, but only to sell us some bad beer? Like what?" And we're already have these issues with him, and it seems so contrived. And they were ready for it. And he came out and just got the biggest booze that you could possibly get, man. I mean, it's like fans really hate when they feel like the wrestlers don't care about wrestling, right? It's why, when Brock Lesnar and Goldberg were at WrestleMania 20 or whatever, they were both leaving the company, the fans hated. Like, "You guys don't even want to be here. Get the hell out of here." They got booed the whole match. And if you come back just to sell beer, the fans are just like, "Get the hell out of here, dude. Like, come on. You can't even, apologize right. You want us to buy your beer? Like, let's say that's so funny." I mean,
it was a rare misread by the room. And by the WWE and TKO to think that was a good idea. I mean,
no, and to have no way to back out of it. Oh, you're holding up a Hogan glass right now.
I'm showing you the Hogan glass. I have all these old WWE glasses from the 80s, but this is where we were. This was like a cartoon superhero I'm holding up if you're watching the video pod. The Hulkamania on the glass with the, the guy was a merchandise machine. He was, I genuinely felt like on par with Stallone and everybody else from that era from how famous he was. Probably didn't make as much money as Stallone.
But he definitely sold more t-shirts than those guys.
Yeah. And, you think back and you think it was him and Vince growing this company, blowing it out. And then the steroid trial happened and it seems like both of them are done, but they're not. And it keeps going for another 30 years. And now one's gone and in a fairly disgraceful way, even in death. And then the other one is just gone, Vince. And we probably will never see him again, but he's out of it. He sold the company. To say it's been a rocky 5 years for him would be an understatement. And we'll see how it plays out legally. But it's just, this was the backbone of this entire business. And both of them just left in disgrace.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it shouldn't be too shocking. I remember when the tape came out. When the tape came out about Hogan, I was talking to, this might have been on one of those early Cheap Heat episodes or something with Rosenberg, but I remember saying, "This is super disappointing." Now, if we could magically, if we could, an angel came down and gave us a list of all the other wrestlers who've said the N-word in private conversations, I think it would be a pretty long list. You look around the world, maybe we shouldn't have been too shocked about that sort of disgrace, especially as we enter the modern world. Wrestling's a very, very odd space. But yeah, I mean, it's when Vince put out that statement about, acknowledging Hogan's death, it was just like, I'm sure he wasn't super excited to do it, but it was like, do we really need this right now? I don't know. The last time I saw Hogan, I think, was when he did the interview for the Vince doc.
Yeah.
We went down to Florida and, I was there as the sort of bullshit detector on set, and there, what can you do with Hulk Hogan? I mean, it's just all bullshit. But, he looked okay at that point. He was walking around with like a staff, like a giant I guess, he's not going to be using a cane. He's Hulk Hogan. So he had like a giant walking stick that was like 7 feet tall that got him from his like super tall truck in and out. And he was always very open about the physical pain he'd been in since he retired. And even while he was wrestling, he got multiple hip replacements. I think 3 or 4 hip replacements. And I remember at one point he couldn't sit in a folding chair to sign autographs for 15 minutes. Like he was in that kind of physical pain. But he was sort of getting around. And then, but he was much more complimentary of Vince in that interview than I expected him to be.
Yeah,
he was much more, and again, the truth varies in Hogan's mind from moment to moment, like whatever. But it did seem like there was some sort of, it was time to just sort of make peace with everything and go out on a good note vibe coming from him.
Well, I can't imagine what he put into his body over like a 40-year stretch. So to live to 71 and then die of heart failure, I can't say neither of us would have been shocked by that one. You're talking about ground zero with steroids in the 70s and 80s before the steroids were even that good.
No,
they just made you bulky and watery, and all these guys were doing it. And we're not breaking any news here, but there's just a slew of wrestlers who have died at ages younger than this. So even getting to 71
no, I mean,
surprising.
You're right. This isn't even like you got a sports doctor. This is like you bought them from another dude in the gym locker room in Tampa or whatever, steroids. These are horse steroids. This is like terrible shit to be putting in your body. And yeah, a lot of people, it's just like hearts exploded, when they were in their 30s and 40s and certainly in their 50s. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And it's crazy to see him. I mean, we've all seen video of him working out with the back brace on. Hogan he was Hogan until the day he died. He always had the little bit of stringy white hair and the mustache and the muscles and the tan and that was always part of the gimmick, brother. He lived it till the end. I guess, when we look back now, that rumor about him dying a few weeks ago that Bubba the Love Sponge put out was probably closer to true. At the time, it was dismissed, but that seemed like the beginning of the. I mean, that you could probably draw a straight line
to put a bow on this, I still feel like Rock had the total package as a wrestler in the best possible way, with the mic skills combined with what an athlete he was growing up in the business. I still have him one for kind of overall talent. I think Hogan is the most popular I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see Bruno in his peak or some of these guys from the earlier in the mid 70s, but I can't imagine anyone got a louder pop than Hogan, especially in the 80s, walking into a 17,000 seat arena as people. And I feel like those crowds kind of pre-85 were wired a little differently anyway. They would just lose their fucking minds at every match.
Yeah.
And then Ric Flair is probably, he's like the LeBron of all of this, right? Like the longest, best career, did the most things. But if you're going to start some sort of list, I feel like those three have to be on it. Are there 2 other people you feel like have to be on it? I'm not saying Mount Rushmore. I'm just saying like just the guys that have to be mentioned.
I would always put Austin above The Rock. I mean, just because he had a very long career with a bunch of different stuff, a bunch of different angles and the heights of the Attitude Era. That was it was the glass breaking. The Rock is. You can make a case for The Rock, especially since all this, he's made all these movies. He's gotten so much more famous, and he's come back now a number of times. The case for
The Rock is he was overqualified to be a wrestler. He's the only one you could say like, I'm slumming at doing this. I've got to go become a movie star.
Yeah, it's true. There's some people in the modern era that would try to make the case for Roman Reigns or CM Punk or John Cena. I think Cena would get a lot of votes now that he's on his retirement tour.
Yeah.
I find it really hard to separate Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. I mean, a lot of their careers were very separate, but Dusty was the one guy that had that sort of charisma, sort of magic. It's really hard. But Hogan, I mean, I think that you look back and it's pretty easy to say that Hogan stands above everybody else. I mean, it's like you look back at the first like 8 years, whatever, of the Hulkamania era. I mean, who is the second most important character? Like, who is second on the call sheet? It's probably Mean Gene Okerlund. It's Hogan. This was like a one-man show for almost a decade. And it was just the people that orbited around him. I mean, it's really. He's pretty singular, and again, not a great professional wrestler belt to belt, but he told the stories in the ring, and maybe that's the most important part.
Yeah, and there's only a couple guys left now. Ric Flair, still hanging on. Vince still hanging on, but we're looking at pretty soon. I think everybody from the 70s and 80s is going to be gone.
It's true, and everybody from the 90s is somehow still wrestling. So I don't know how we're going to reconcile this.
Yeah, well, the medicine's better. David Shoemaker, great to see you as always. Thanks for popping up.
Great to see you too, man. Thanks.
All right, that's it for the podcast. Thanks to Shoemaker and JackO and House. Thanks to Eduardo and Yahoo as well. Don't forget, you can watch all of the videos from this podcast on the Bill Simmons YouTube channel. We have new rewatchables coming too as well on Monday night. And I'm going to be back midweek with one more podcast on this feed. See you then.